So I've mentioned on my recent videos that Australia is definitely somewhere I'm considering moving to. I think actually I might be coming to Australia in March. We might be coming to Perth. My wife's still on maternity leave and we're thinking it might be nice to have a week or so there. Yeah, she has some extended family there, so we might actually come for a trip. So recommend some things to do in Perth. We're still considering it at the moment. There's some like really reasonably priced flights from here in Malaysia to Perth in March, so it's definitely somewhere we're considering and probably going to do. But in the meantime, still going to be doing a lot of reactions to Australian things. Really loving this exploration of Australia so far. Today we're going to be looking at this. It's called 6 Strange Things We Noticed When We Moved to Australia. So I think this would be very interesting to watch again, like the other videos, and you can tell me what you think about this one as always.
Ben!
Yes?
Time for filming.
Now it is time to tell you about the strangest things we found about Australia. Just a quick disclaimer, these are things that we found strange as people coming from another country, not necessarily that they are strange. Number 1 is prices here fluctuate like crazy. Now this goes from fuel prices to food prices. For example, petrol was being sold at $1.86 here yesterday.
And today it's just jumped up to $2.24. Sometimes it jumps up 30, 40 cents in just a day.
So that's why we use our 7-Eleven app to lock in the fuel price for...
Yeah, what I was going to say is that's one thing I've noticed because I follow the Australian subreddit on Reddit, and there's always discussions about the price of things, the cost of living in Australia. I know that Australia's always had a high cost of living, especially in the cities like Sydney and Melbourne and so on, but it seems to be like actually becoming quite unaffordable for some people. Tell me what your experiences of that is. Like since COVID, have the prices been increasing like to a level that's unmanageable or difficult for some people? That's something that obviously I would have to consider when moving there. Here in Malaysia, like the cost of living has been increasing, but the general cost of things is generally quite low. So I actually can save quite a lot of money here, can live a really decent lifestyle. Tell me what you think about the prices and the cost of living in Australia as Australians.
to lock in the fuel price for the next 7 days, and this is how it looks.
Good tip, Ben.
7-Eleven app to lock in the fuel price for the next 7 days, and this is how it looks.
Good tip, Ben.
Cheers, buddy.
Obviously, fruit and veg.
So you can use an app to lock in a fuel price. Do you tell me if you use that one?
Are cheaper when they're in season and when there's a big supply. However, from Europe, it's not something we're used to. If you're in the UK or probably any European country, I'm not sure about America, but you would pay a set amount any day of the year for, say, your broccoli or your cauliflower. Over here, it really does fluctuate a lot, and it was something that we found really strange to begin with. We've obviously got used to it, but it was really strange to us.
It does make sense.
That actually is similar in Malaysia, because Malaysia requires quite a lot of imported goods, like whether it's produce and things like that in the supermarkets. Prices on individual items can fluctuate. I guess it is different from the UK because the UK produces so many things that the prices can be a bit more stable. Maybe it's different for Australia.
Sense though, because there's a huge amount of fruit and veg grown here in Australia, and
Yeah,
not
that's
so
what I
much
thought.
imported.
Number two is that even though we're speaking the same language of English, it is so different, and there is so much confusion between English-speaking countries or English-speaking cultures. We can be saying the same words but meaning something completely different. For example, Ben went on a dogging course this.
I mean, if you're from Australia, do you know what the British meaning of dogging is? I guess they're probably going to explain it, but it's something, I mean, you can Google it.
Week.
I actually did.
That in the UK, dogging is something very perverted and will
Yeah.
actually land you in court.
Or just in jail time.
But Ben, explain to us what dogging means to you.
I mean, I was going to say Google it, but maybe you're best not to Google it.
So I now have a license to use the straps and chains and stuff like that, working with crane drivers on building sites. So absolutely nothing to do with the dogging you read about in UK newspapers. So that is just one of the misunderstandings we've had here as POMs in Australia. Thongs is another one, and I am now a proud owner of my own pair of thongs, and I've got to keep it a secret from the rest of the family in UK. The third thing we'd like to touch on is one that Maz finds very strange, and that's drive-through bottolos. Because she doesn't...
Yeah, I've seen this mentioned on one of the previous videos, but I don't actually know what this is.
Really get the whole, I'm going to start driving and buy some beer to carry on driving.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I realise obviously the
That
idea
sounds
is
good.
not that you drink it in the car while you're driving, but to me, if I went through a drive-through fast food restaurant, I would probably be scoffing it in the car. But
Unlike some of us that would wait until we got home to eat it.
not everyone waits. But anyway, it just, when we
My
first
wife
saw it,
doesn't,
it really
I
made
do.
me laugh, because I just had visions of people, you know, having the beer chucked in their car and just opening a can to go round drinking, and it just didn't really seem to, it just wasn't something I'd seen before, and it just seemed a little bit strange, but I do get it. It's
Quirky.
the idea is not to go round drinking while you're driving.
No, it's just so you don't have to get out of the car to start loading up your car.
Number
So drive-through alcohol supplier type thing, is it? Like an alcohol shop? Tell me if you make use of that. I guess it just means, I don't know, man. I've never really had a difficulty going to just walk into the shop to buy alcohol, but tell me if you use that and if it makes your life easier.
4 is that licensing laws are so different here. It can be different, well, it not can be, it is different in every state. So you might be able to purchase alcohol in a supermarket in one state, but in Queensland you definitely can't. And the other thing that really got us was that there are certain days of the year where they make it actually harder to buy alcohol, such as Good Friday, which was really strange to us. We'd not really had those kind of restrictions before, and we didn't realise they were going to be in place. It's certain public holidays, but Good Friday seems to be a really big deal here, and there's a lot of rules in place.
Some of the towns in Australia.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. The only place I've experienced something like that is in Thailand, where I lived in Thailand for a year, and they never sold, there was a certain period, I don't know if it's still applicable, but they never sold alcohol during the day until like, I can't remember if it was like 4 p.m, 5 p.m, something like that. So daytime drinking was very difficult, man.
You can't even drive through with alcohol in the booth, let alone buy anything. It's done to protect some communities, but it's something we've never heard of before.
On that note, actually, this is a bit of an extra one, but on that note,
Lucky yous.
you will find that if you go out to places on a public holiday, you'll be charged a surcharge, such as if you went to a cafe or restaurant, of maybe 15%, I think. And the reason for this is they actually pay their team members more on those days, so you as the customer can, you know, obviously pay for that.
That's a great
So
idea,
that's
actually.
something we'd never encountered before.
I wouldn't
either,
mind paying
but
extra for that.
It is a good thing for the Aussies, because it means that they're being paid well for
Yeah.
working those undesirable days.
It's a very good idea.
No one wants to work an undesirable day.
No.
Number 5 alive is they celebrate the Queen's birthday over here, and they're not even on the same day in each state. I think each state just choose a day to celebrate the Queen's birthday.
Yeah, I think is it June for most states, and then for some reason Queensland celebrate at the beginning of October. So even though we're celebrating the Queen's birthday, it doesn't necessarily need to be on the Queen's birthday.
It's definitely strange. I think it might just be that Australians want a day off.
I think it was stranger to us because being from the UK, we don't celebrate the Queen's birthday, so it seemed really funny that we got a public holiday for it here.
So
Yeah, I guess that leads on to like a bigger question, is how Australian people feel about that relationship with the UK. I know there's a great relationship with regards to just like immigration and people living here and there, and our peoples having like similar personalities and just being very similar. But how do Australians feel about actually that relationship with the UK with regards to like the royal family and the history of the Commonwealth and things like that? Are people in Australia proud of that? Or I know that there's a lot of ex-Commonwealth countries who are like really against that relationship and really disrespect the UK, if that's the way to say it. But they really don't respect that relationship with the UK because of colonisation and things like that. But how do Australians feel about
But
that?
listen up there, UK, because I think the Australians just give you a ripper idea for another bank holiday.
Number 6 is
Got the fingers.
the term yeah nah. So that's a really strange one to get used to. We're used to it, we actually use it, but it's a funny one to begin with because it means no,
Or you go the other way around and it's nah, yeah.
and that means yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I know what you're getting at.
Confused much? We were too. If you want to say no to something, just yeah nah.
Yeah, nah.
It's
I
an
love it,
interesting
they're
quirk
teaching
of the
Australian
language.
Yes. Nah, yeah.
And I need you to stand back a tiny bit because you're blocking the light from me.
Okay, man, that was really interesting. So good to find out more about Australia, as always with these videos, and especially I like to hear British people's opinions after moving to Australia. It seems like, again, you can just tell from these people they're very happy, so obviously they enjoy their life in Australia. Really interesting to find out some things, because I've made a lot of reactions to Australian life and Australian culture, and these are things like that 7-Eleven app, being able to lock in your petrol price. Sounds like something that's probably normal to people in Australia, but that kind of is very interesting use of technology for me. Things like celebrating the Queen's birthday when we don't even do that in the UK. A lot of good things again. Very interesting to get more of a deeper insight into Australian life from the opinion of expats. So tell me what you think about all of these, and yeah, recommend some places in Perth, or recommend some things I should do in Perth if we end up going. Thanks.